And then I was sitting in my parents' house. When you get out of college, a lot of people think that you're going to walk out with 4 job offers and that your life is going to be set and everything that you were expecting to happen would happen. If I had done what I said I was going to do at college, I would have been walking right into medical school in the following September. Instead, I was sitting in my green paisley pajamas in my mom's living room, feeling like a complete waste of space, wondering how many different ways I could figure out to make toast over one summer. And I got bored one day and went back to Harry Potter. And I opened up the first book, and it felt like going home, like going back to characters who were sitting there waiting for me to come visit. I kind of like fell back into them, and that was it. Within 2 days, I read all 4 again, and I said, well, the 5th one is obviously out, and I just don't know about it. Or the 5th one is coming out. Somebody knows when the 5th one's coming out. I'm gonna figure that out. I'm gonna find out. You know, who knows? Well, you know, J.K. Rowling didn't know, but I was gonna find out. In the meantime, I was applying to jobs, journalism jobs, in the summer of 2001. Resumes going out forever, never returning. Around early September, I finally found a small website called Leaky. Now, a lot of people think I founded Leaky. I did not. It was called A Leaky Cauldron. It was a study in bad web design. It was midnight blue with orange text. It was bad. But they were the only people at the time who were taking Harry Potter as something to be reported upon, as somewhere to collect a lot of information. And I just started checking it obsessively. I said, well, if book 5 is coming out, Leaky has a clue, Leaky knows. And I started sending them tips. Well, Leaky didn't know, obviously, when book 5 was coming out. But I became addicted. It somehow fused what I wanted to do with my life, which was be a journalist and report, with this new love that I had, Harry Potter. And they were the only people treating it that way. So I bookmarked them, and I kept returning, I kept sending them setting them tips. Finally, one day, the Vanity Fair, the first pictures of the kid actors in costume were set to come out. And I marched down to my local shop, and I said, I know you have the Vanity Fair. And this poor little man was just like, no, tomorrow it comes out. I said, no, I need it today. And I started offering him money. I said, no, tomorrow. I can give it to you tomorrow. I said, no. I started just putting whatever was in my wallet on the table, and finally he just started laughing, and he gave me the magazine. And I sent it to Leaky, committing my first flagrant act of copyright infringement. First of many, but all in the name of keeping the fans updated. Hey, listen. And finally, there was an email back from Leaky saying, no, why don't you come work for us? And I thought, well, I'm not doing anything that brings money in. I might as well be doing something. I said, sure, that'd be a lot of fun. And then September 11th happened. For you guys, I mean, it's been 8 years since then, so most of you are probably around 10. Anybody a New Yorker? Yeah. If you had told me that one of the anchor points of my day, that day, would have been the Harry Potter phenomenon, again, I would have said you were nuts. But I was consistently fighting with my family about the fact that I needed to get a job and get out of the house, or needed to do something more productive than sit and send out resumes. And in the midst of everything that was going on, not knowing where my sister was, not knowing where most of my family was, not knowing where several friends were, not having a phone, because if you were in New York that day, the phone lines, it was literally impossible to get on the phone. A light blinked in the adjacent room, and I realized the internet still worked. And I ran to the internet. Now, the internet at this time was not what it is today, by any stretch of the imagination. In 1999, the internet had a huge surge. LiveJournal started. A lot of social networking was beginning. This is when you know the precursors to MySpace and the precursors to Facebook, and even a precursor to Twitter, even though it was probably of insufficient length, became popular. And I didn't know it, but the same way I was looking for my family and I was looking for my friends, the fans of Leaky were looking for me because they knew that I was from New York. And all of a sudden, this group, this amazing community, was keeping me basically sane as we were collecting our loved ones that day. And I'd spent a summer feeling so useless after college, feeling like my wonderful Georgetown education, so much like a wonderful Northwestern education, wasn't being put to good use. And finally, it felt like there was some sort of outlet in which I belonged. And it cemented me to this community. You guys got the books, what, when you were 10, 8, 14, 12, 7? So you guys have always had Harry Potter. You guys grew up right in the midst of it. I remember when the internet was black and white, and to enter and exit your email, you had to press Y or N. God, that makes me feel old. But at that time, we were enjoying the internet when it was, it was a complete baby. 2 weeks later, I got a job at MTV Networks. And I think the kindest thing I can say about my boss at that job is that she was not the woman from The Devil Wears Prada. She was perhaps The Devil Wears the Gap. And again, it was another situation in which I was doing something that I felt like I was supposed to be doing, like going to school or sending out resumes or one of 8 million things. And it was the Harry Potter community that was keeping me sane. I'd spend hours, I'd be there till 8, 10 o'clock at night, catering to her every whim, doing her, reservations for her bridal shower, literally. And come home to a waiting community who were just passionate and enthusiastic, and I would feel very gratified when we'd put up a big scoop, or we'd start talking to the movie industry people who had finally started to recognize us as real people. Back in 2001, Warner Brothers was trying to shut down the fan sites. It was trying to shut down. It was like the legal department felt like this is what they should do, and nobody had reminded them that the people who run the fan sites were, like 13. And so they started getting cease and desist letters, these 13 and 12-year-old kids. They're saying, you're infringing on our copyright. Imagine you're 10, 12, 13, and you get a letter that says, you're infringing on our copyright for your I Love Dan Radcliffe poster on your screensaver, but that's what was happening. And then 2 years later, they started inviting us to the junkets, Leaky and myself, who were the first people to go start doing real reporting. I was supposed to be at MTV to be doing editorial assistant work on a newspaper, but a month after September 11th, my entire division got cut by a massive round of layoffs, and I was instead made secretary to The Devil Wears Club Monaco. But it's important, and those jobs are important. Those jobs are important when you get out of college, because she gave me a very clear distinction. It started to become very obvious that doing what I loved was bringing me a lot more joy than hanging out at MTV Networks, which I thought was such a dream job when I got it. Oh my gosh, I'm going right into the entertainment industry. I'm going to go become an entertainment reporter. It's going to be great. And then I started getting baked potatoes for this woman every day for lunch. It's kind of humbling, but I think in a good kind of humbling. So in 2003, the 5th book had just come out. Now, where were you guys when you read the last book? With friends, at home, read it all night? Who was up all night with it? I had 13 friends join me in New Jersey, at my parents' house in New Jersey. We set up a confessional. Basically, we stuck a camera in a front room, and